Tolkien created 14 languages and even expanded upon how they were developed inside the story. This world building is unlike any other. Join Anthony and I as we talk about the languages that influenced Tolkien and which ones aren't really mentioned. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the White City Podcast. Today I have a new guest with me, Anthony Phillips, and it's good to have you on, Anthony.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be on.
Good, yeah, it's great to have you on. Um, so before we really get into the languages that Tolkien created and that influenced the languages that he created, like Anthony, what got you into Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I'm coming at it as an author, like I'm a fantasy author, and I've got my world, binder, my appendices and stuff like that. And so like what Tolkien really does for me is he makes a world that feels real, what I call a paracosm, an immersive world. I get the same feeling from Lord of the Rings that I get from Zelda, right? When you go into Tolkien's works, it feels so real. And the avenue that he took to get that like real texture was language more than anything else. He has that quote about the languages were made, the world and the story were made for the languages to have a home, right? And I think that really comes through the deeper and deeper you go into the Silmarillion and into some of the poetry that Aragorn or Gandalf says, throughout the series. I mean, you just really get the feeling that the languages are alive, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah, I think that it is true that it's was it like kind of that famous quote of he kind of started with languages and he started with the words, that describe things, and then made a story out of it. Or like
Yeah,
he had languages and he wanted to create characters that would speak them, right?
yeah.
Those kind of
He's got this
ideas.
great, I've got a bunch of quotes that I pulled up here. He's got this great one. I mean, the appendices are amazing. And my favorite book is Name of the Wind, and Name of the Wind and Song of Ice and Fire both like they explicitly have stated, they owe everything to Tolkien. To Patrick Rothfuss calls him Grandpa Tolkien, and I guess that makes him great Grandpa Tolkien to me. But he has this thing in the um Appendix D, I think. Basically, he says like Samwise and Hamfoot and things like, or Hamfast, things like this. These are actually like different words, and I tried to carry a little bit of that meaning into how I translated their names, which he got because he was a Norse scholar. So he was constantly translating Norse and Old English texts. He translated old, Gawain and the Green Knight and Beowulf, which are Old English texts, which is a different language, right? Like Old English is not English. Shakespeare is like the beginning of modern English. Beowulf is a different language. But
Ward
he,
instead of sword. It's like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Weird instead of word or magic, right? Things like that. But primarily he loved Norse. And a lot of it comes through. I mean, when he talks about, I think it's Quenya. Yeah, Quenya, like the accent system is very similar to Norse. The way that they treat two weak syllables as one strong syllable is how they do it in Norse poetry. It like he explicitly states, well, a lot of it comes from Norse, basically. Um, I had that quote, but I think I lost it. Oh, here it is. This is Appendix F, and he's talking about the names of the hobbits. I've not used names of Hebraic or similar origin in my transpositions. Nothing in Hobbit names corresponds to this element in our names. Short names, such as Sam, Tom, Tim, Matt, were common as abbreviations of actual Hobbit names, such as Tomba, Tolma, Matta, and the like. But Sam and his father Ham were really called Bon and Ron. These were shortenings of Banazir and Ranugad, originally nicknames meaning half-wise or simple, and stay at home, which I think is so cool. He like includes in here like his name wasn't Sam. Like we hear Sam and it's so iconically his name, but he's saying here like his name was actually Banazir, like it's just very, very interesting, very intricate world building in terms of like everything is a translation. Everything in Lord of the Rings is a translation. He has the Hobbit calendar in here and the days of each month, and they're like 25-day months for the most part. Just very cool. So in my story is called Nala Saga, and I owe a lot to Tolkien in the sense that like in my story world, it's almost all orcs. And I was inspired by quite a few passages in Tolkien's work where he implies that there are more to these orcish cultures than you might think. But the Silmarillion, it's basically the Elvish Bible, and so the fact that they have all of these warring opinions about orcs, you can trace it back to the idea that like this is actually from the perspective of several Elvish scribes, Elvish scholars, things like that, which I really love. Appendix F has a bunch of great stuff, and this is at the end of Return to the King. Appendix F has a bunch of great stuff about languages, and naturally, I like most of the quotes that I pulled up are about orcs because I love orcs, and like the language that I made is the old orcish language. And I'll maybe get into that either at the end of this or another time. But I took the idea from Tolkien that like you have this core Elvish language that is older, and then you have these branches, and it starts to change, and it starts to change, and it starts to change until it gets down to the Black speech, which is like a very far, if I can say bastardization, I guess, of his Elvish tongue that Sauron used. And this is what he has to say about it. This is the section called Orcs and the Black Speech. Orc is the form of the name that other races had for this foul people, as it was in the language of Rohan. As it was in the language of Rohan, sorry. In Sindarin, it was Orch. Related, no doubt, was the word Uruk of the Black Speech, though this was applied as a rule only to the great soldier orcs that at this time issued from Mordor and Isengard. So that's really cool. That like he explicitly says he explicitly states that Uruk is is a name for orc, but specifically of soldier orcs. I just think that's very cool. Versus Snaga as slave. He talks a little bit about like why Sauron. It is said that the Black Speech was devised by Sauron in the Dark Years, which I don't know when the Dark Years are, by the way, and that he had desired to make it. I'm losing my place. I'm getting all flustered. It is said that the Black Speech was devised by Sauron in the Dark Years, and that he had desired to make it the language of all those that served him, but he failed in that purpose. From the Black Speech, however, were derived many of the words that were in the Third Age widespread among the orcs, such as Gash, which is fire, but after the first overthrow of Sauron, this language in its ancient form was forgotten by all but the Nazgul. When Sauron arose again, it became once more the language of Barad-dûr and of the captains of Mordor. The inscription on the ring was in the ancient Black Speech, while the curse of the Mordor orc was in the more debased form used by the soldiers of the Dark Tower, of whom Grishnach was the captain. Sharku in that tongue means old man. Just very cool. Very cool stuff. And there's just so much like it's so rich, you know? All the way back in Fellowship, we get that the most iconic chapter maybe of all time, the Council of Elrond. Um and this is Gandalf speaking here. This is just incredible. Um If that is not proof enough, Galdor, there is the other test that I spoke of. Upon this very ring which you have here seen held aloft, round and unadorned, the letters that Isildur reported may still be read, if one has the strength of will to set the golden thing in the fire a while. That I have done, and this I have read. And this is the kind of stuff that really inspires me. Ashnazg Durbatuluk, Ashnazg Gimbatul, Ashnazg Trakatuluk Ag Burzum Ishi Krimpatul. The change in the wizard's voice was astounding. Suddenly it became menacing, powerful, harsh as stone. A shadow seemed to pass over the high sun, and the porch for a moment grew dark. All trembled, and the elves stopped their ears. Never before has any voice dared to utter words of that tongue in Imladris Gandalf the Grey, said Elrond, as the shadow passed, and the company breathed once more. And let us hope that none will ever speak it here again, answered Gandalf. Nonetheless, I do not ask your pardon, Master Elrond. It's just so good. You know? It's just so good. And it feels, it feels orcish. That's something that I really wanted with mine. If you punch in AnthonyLeePhillips.com, it takes you to the first chapter of my book, and I try right off the bat, O da grapok gathmorgul, once upon a moonful night, agmukra ok oanini ba ok urk. There was a girl who was an orc. Agyaria sliditsich na seganigri. Lagle nubaja agshej ozalvaga, agil o lagle ozalvanga, velagdur o onimi waiva ogana, ag or diari orja rayu. Once upon a moonful night, there was a girl who was an orc. She had gold-slitted eyes and dark green skin. Her black hair, when light touched it, drank it in. And when she turned 11, she began to have true dreams. Like I wanted it to feel like orcish. I wanted it to feel like Tolkien's languages have such a natural feel to them until you get to the Black Speech, and then he wants it to feel unnatural. He wants it to be hard to pronounce so that you don't pronounce it. Somebody made him like a cup or a goblet or a bowl or something with the One Ring inscription on it, and gave it to him as a gift, and he was like, "What are you doing?" It's like giving a devout Catholic an upside down cross, Um, and so he wanted it to not feel very intuitive to say. But in approaching my orcish, my orcs are not all evil. There is the tribe that Aragorn is going to want to get revenge on for, killing his mother and so on. But that's not every tribe of orc in my world. And that I think Tolkien, that I owe thanks to Tolkien for as well, believe it or not. As much as he would hate that I'm writing a book about orcs, or 9 books about orcs. But
Yeah. Um, Very
what,
interesting.
yeah, what is your experience with some of the languages and stuff? Because there's so much. Like I said, it's so rich. What's been your like background and exposure to the languages of Tolkien?
Hmm. So I basically have very little knowledge of languages in Middle Earth. I mean, besides like, I think there's something that I see a lot of times. What is it? It's like the Elvish greeting. I've seen
Oh,
used a lot
yeah.
by people. I
I don't
can't.
have it memorized, but yeah.
It's like It's the Elvish greeting. I can't remember exactly what it says now, but um. Oh, it's is it Maigavanen or Mayavanen? Something like that.
I don't
It's
know.
supposed to be
I can
like
look it up for you.
it's supposed to be like hello or something. Um, but yeah, so like I don't know really a ton of languages in there. I don't really like I am very fascinated by languages. Um how would I say this? I have yet to come across a language that has really stumped me. I I had Latin in middle school, and then I had French in high school, and probably the Latin was like the thing that really helps, I bet, in
Yeah,
preparing for
yeah.
languages. And then I had like Greek, New Testament Greek in like my senior year of high school. And then it was kind of cheap, but basically to like get a good grade and I liked it, I took French again in college.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
totally.
and, and it wasn't hard for me. Like I should have gone with like Spanish or something, I
Yeah.
guess.
Something like Mandarin or Arabic.
Right.
Something
But
easy.
anyways, but yeah, and then I took Greek in college as well, but the Greek book
Nice.
we were using was the same Greek book that I did in high school. So basically, I was just again doing the same thing that I knew. So it's not exactly like me just learning new languages, you know. So I will have to put that out there. But I do like
Yeah.
languages a lot. Um, and so it does. It's like something that I would kind of like to know is like um how does like Tolkien, you know, do the tenses? How does he parse them out? You know, the
Yeah.
declensions and all
Yeah.
that kind of thing. You know, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I would like to see is like
That's the
how he
appendices. The
yeah.
appendices are very good about that actually. Appendix E and Appendix F have a ton of info about like how to specifically speak his languages, which is very cool at the end of Return of the King.
Okay.
I'm sure that the Silmarillion has some in there. But the Return of the King appendices are I mean that the appendices the how Tolkien uses an appendix has been more influential than any single part of his world, I think. Because like he approached it, he wanted it to feel right off the bat in Lord of the Rings, like an encyclopedia, right? Concerning hobbits. Like the whole first chapter of Lord of the Rings is like, welcome to the Shire, and here is the entire culture of this peaceful place. You know, like here is what they eat, here is what they do for work, here is their. I don't think he talked about their calendar, but it is in the appendices and so on. But he wanted it to feel like there is this English translator who's translating this epic saga, which is actually two interweaving sagas. You know, the saga of Frodo and the saga of Aragorn. Um, and you can really see, I mean, especially like I don't know, there's so much to praise about Tolkien, right? And Frodo's story is it's like it's much closer to his like lived life. The way that Frodo and Sam and Gollum are like trudging through wastelands, you know, it's much closer to his experiences of World War One and missing the Shire, missing England, missing his home, missing Oxford. Um, and I know this is boiling it way down. You know, I mean, I'm speaking in broad strokes, and I'm not the best Tolkien scholar. You know, I'm mainly a writer. And most of what I take inspiration from is in the world. Like I love his biography, I really do. But like the idea of an Elvish language tree, that interests me. That interests me a lot. You know, he took like if you look at the provenance of the English language, it is a mutt language. It, you know, like the language that became Sanskrit and became Norse and became Germanic, then evolved more and they all like intermingled and then it started to mix with Latin and then it made English. And you see that in his languages, in how Quenya becomes Sindarin. And like I can't remember the exact family tree because again, I just took the broad idea of it. And I said, yeah, I want to do that, but with verb first languages. And I love the idea of a language tree. I just love it. Like let's look up Elvish language tree real quick. Because I think Quenya comes first, right? Let's see here. Primitive Quendian, which then becomes like a bunch of different dialects, and then Common Eldarin. This is actually a great post that I can learn a lot from. But it eventually becomes Sindarin, which is what we think of as Elvish largely, right? Um,
I'm still there.
Say it again.
I say I'm still here
Yeah.
if my things froze.
Oh no. But yes, I mean, here it says Sindarin is, you know, the common tongue, so to speak, of elves, which is kind of cool. But even in that, like that's the lingua franca. That's the that's the royal French, right? Honestly, like Tolkien's work with Norse, I think influenced so much of what he thinks of when he's creating these languages, Norse and Welsh. Um, he loved the sound of Welsh. I think Welsh is aesthetically the thing that he cites the most. But he was a Norse scholar. When you read the Eddas, when you read like, do you know Dr. Jackson Crawford? Do you know that translator?
No, I don't think so.
He's a guy on YouTube. He's amazing. He's this cowboy from like Wisconsin, Wisconsin, Colorado, Wyoming area. No, Wyoming, Colorado. Sorry, Wisconsin isn't anywhere close there. Um, but he's like a Colorado cowboy who's really, really into Old Norse and Old Norse poetry, and he has all these great translations out, which are very lean. They're almost muscular, you know. And but he has all these YouTube videos where he talks about how to translate Old Norse and translating, like line by line, and why it might be hard to do that with a poem like Voluspa, where we learn about Ragnarok. Because like the witch in Voluspa, like the premise of it, which you learn like halfway through the poem, is that Odin has brought this witch back from the dead to tell him about Ragnarok. And she tells him about the beginning of the world, and she tells him about Ragnarok, and she keeps on saying, like, have you had enough yet or what? Have you had enough yet or what? Have you had enough yet or what? And because she's been brought back to the dead and she's seeing the past and the future and the present all at the same time, she keeps on changing tense and changing POV. She keeps on saying like she is seeing this. I saw this. We are here. She keeps on changing the language in this surreal, almost psychedelic way. And he smoothed that out for the translation, but you see some of that in Tolkien's writing, especially in the parts that harken back to Norse. When you're looking at Gandalf, Gandalf is Odin. He is the Gray Stranger. He just has two eyes, but he is the Gray Stranger. He's trying to get a war started like Odin, he's an old spirit. He's weathered. He's made mistakes and knows it. But also, like, I mean, Boromir and Aragorn are straight out of a saga. If you're looking at the movie, you're not gonna see that so much. But Aragorn is carrying around this sword that is already reforged, and when he goes into battle, he becomes a Norse hero. Those scenes are straight out of Saga of the Volsungs, straight out of Herivor Saga. It's the same thing with Boromir, who is very much Gondor is like Viking land, you know. Uh, Saruman is like an Old Norse wizard. There's this famous or used to be famous, I guess, Norse hero named Arrow-Odd, and he's always trying to trick people to go into battle before him. And there are just shades of Arrow-Odd in Saruman's character. Um, I'm sure that there are worse wizards that directly feed into Saruman, because Saruman does feel right out of Saga. Um, and that comes from Tolkien's work as a translator and teaching Norse poetry. Like, and that's the other thing that I wanted to bring up is the poetry of Tolkien. Let's see here. He There's this awesome, very short poem by Eomer. No, it's not this one. I need to get organized, dude. That part's cool too.
Right.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. It's such a brief little moment. It's in Two Towers and is the oh no, this is book 5. This is in Return of the King, chapter 6. Um and it's stern Eomer is how I think of it. Stern now was Eomer's mood, and his mind clear again. He let blow the horns to rally all men to his banner that could come thither, for he thought to make a great shield wall at last, and stand and fight there on foot till all fell, and do deeds of song on the fields of Pelennor, though no man should be left in the west to remember the last king of the Mark. So he rode to a green hillock, and there set his banner, and the white horse ran rippling in the wind. And this is the poem. Out of doubt, out of dark to the day's rising, I came singing in the sun, sword unsheathing. To hope's end I rode, and to heart's breaking, now for wrath, now for ruin, and a red nightfall. These staves he spoke, yet he laughed as he said them, for once more lust of battle was on him, and he was still unscathed, and he was young, and he was king, the lord of a fell people. And lo, even as he laughed at despair, he looked out again on the black ships, and he lifted up his sword to defy them. And then wonder took him and a great joy, and he cast his sword up in the sunlight and sang as he caught it, and all eyes followed his gaze. And behold, upon the foremost ship a great standard broke, and the wind displayed it as she turned toward the Harland. There flowered a white tree, and that was for Gondor. But 7 stars were about it, and a high crown above it, the signs of Elendil that no lord had borne for years beyond count. And the stars flamed in the sunlight, for they were wrought by gems by Arwen, daughter of Elrond. And the crown was bright in the morning, for it was wrought of mithril and gold. Thus came Aragorn, son of Arathorn, Elisar, a seal to his heir, out of the paths of the dead, borne upon the wind from the sea to the kingdom of Gondor. And the mirth of the Rohirrim was a torrent of laughter and a flashing of swords, and the joy and wonder of the city was a music of trumpets and a ringing of bells. But the hosts of Mordor were seized with bewilderment and a great wizardry, it seemed to them, that their own ships should be filled with their foes. And a black dread fell on them, knowing that the tides of fate had turned against them and their doom was at hand. Just epic, you know. Just epic.
It's good. Yeah.
And like that, I think that more than anything, like Tolkien's love of languages really does come down to poetry, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to read that. I know that it's not a language section, but like his love of Norse language in the original tongue, and his love of Shakespeare in the original tongue, which is English, they they show up in his languages. And I think that that's his real legacy.
Yeah. Man, you covered a lot of things there, for sure. Um, yeah, so like, hmm.
And I love that he has different writing systems too. I mean, he was working on his Dwarvish, right? The script of the One Ring he drew out, which I think is very cool. Have you did you play Elden Ring?
I have not played Elden Ring.
Mm.
The closest I've got is Skyrim. So,
Yeah, totally. Elden
yeah.
Ring is cool because I mean George Martin references Tolkien a lot, especially in the books. I mean, um, Lord Hightower, who we haven't seen yet, is almost definitely Saruman. And in the Winds of Winter, one of the things that we're kind of sure about in the theory crafting community for Song of Ice and Fire is like uh, that guy is like Euron Greyjoy is Sauron. He has the red eye standard, and he's sailing his ship into Old Town, and there's a guy who's been living in a tower and has not been seen in the story. He hasn't been seen in like 3 decades or something like that. And he's a wizard. He's Lord Hightower of Old Town. Um, and he's totally gonna open up his gates and let Sauron in. I mean, Euron in. But I bring that up because one of the first things that you see in Elden Ring is you see these two symbols. You see a tree and you see two rings around each other. And the rings are in like a script. And then like this is the screen where you adjust your darkness, so that you can see all the detail. And
Right.
right off the bat, I was like, that is the One Ring inscription. But these two orders, this is the same order. The words are drawn by these finger creatures, and they're runes in the air, and then somebody transcribes them. But it's this ring, and whenever you pray, it it heals you. But these two rings, you're surrounded by these two rings, which is either a reference to Sauron or to Morgoth's ring, which is a really cool idea. Um, That being like Sauron put all of his power into the One Ring, put all his power into a ring, right? But Morgoth's ring is the world. Morgoth's ring is the physical world, you know? And so like the idea here is that you can't actually get rid of Morgoth's evil because he's baked it into the fabric of the cosmic reality, um, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I love that Tolkien wrote out his languages. I love that.
Yeah. So so like the common. All right. So here's another thing I guess that I wonder is like Elvish. It seems to be is like pretty well laid out, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's his
the
most detailed language family.
yeah, like it's the Sindarin and what's the other
And the
one?
Quenya.
Quenya.
The Sindarin and
Yeah.
the Quenya are the two that are
Yeah.
really detailed.
And those ones were they was the is it Welsh Finnish that those ones were primarily based on or
I think he used a lot of things. I remember reading that it was mainly Welsh aesthetically, and then it has a lot of the grammar of Norse. And I'm not sure how close that is to Welsh. I don't know a lot about those languages specifically. I just know that he took a lot of inspiration from them. Um, but
right.
yeah, those are very, very detailed. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
so you were yeah, and like
yeah,
working out from there, you've also got like Dwarvish, right? Which is that
yeah.
supposed to be like a something that's like kind of come from Elvish as well? Or, no, actually, okay, wait, or is Dwarvish something that was first?
I'm pretty sure that it came later.
Okay.
Um, but I could be wrong about that. I mean, Um, but I think that it's its own thing. I think that Dwarvish is like a completely different language and a completely different language family. I would have to look into that though, uh, or ask like a Tolkien language scholar, which there are. I'm getting there, but not there yet.
Yeah, that's cool. Uh, I was reading off of some wikis from
Yeah.
like Tolkien Gateway and whatnot, but uh, uh, something was saying that maybe it's not showing it there. But it said something about when the dwarves were like woken up, their language was like given to them. But
I do know that the look of the Norse, that the, of Norse runes, of
yeah,
Norse letters, that is very, very highly featured in his Dwarvish language.
yes,
And what's the name of his
yes, that
Dwarvish
makes a
language?
lot of sense.
Kuzdul, Kuzdul.
Right, right, Kuzdul.
Epic.
Um,
Oh, cool! It's a
I
root system.
okay. Sounds like
Meaning that
Hebrew.
yeah, it's like Hebrew or Arabic, where it's like in a lot of Arabic, you've got three consonant sounds, and depending on how those are arranged and what you do with those words, I guess that like it's something to do with a flower. It's something to do with water, um,
Okay.
things like that.
You're
So
saying
that's
it's because
cool.
of
I didn't
the
know
way
that.
it sounds, it like sounds like it's
No, the language
or
construction, like how words are made, how meaning is made. Root systems are pretty cool if you take some time to look into Arabic. Like I said, this is another one of the like mostly what I'm focused on is story, and like um, how language and poetry changes the texture of a story. And I think that that's where Tolkien, that's where my love of Tolkien really is. It's like when I teach people how to outline for their own creative writing, one of the first things that I do is I talk about ugly truth. And the easiest ugly truth is in Fellowship of the Ring, where you see Frodo going to Rivendell and he's like, I'm gonna take the ring to the grown-ups and they're gonna take care of this. The world is in danger and I'm gonna take the ring to the grown-ups. And he gets there, and I think the movie does a great job of this, where he sees the reflection of everybody in the ring. He sees what this thing is doing and that it doesn't affect him in the same way as these other people. And he sees the ugly truth. He's at a fork in the road. It's a great midpoint. You can either go home, live happily for a few years, and then all of everything that you love is going to be burned down, or you can sacrifice your life and do the right thing and try to destroy this thing. Ugly truth, right? And he does the same thing at the end of Return of the King with both, Gollum at the climax, in that moment, in that
Yeah.
beautiful moment, but also in the Scouring of the Shire, which I don't mind that they cut. I think that it makes sense, but it's extremely important for the book. Extremely important.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I actually I'm so sorry, but I do actually have to cut this shorter than I thought. I'm so sorry. I thought that I
No
have more
problem.
time than I did.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. We will I would just have any ending thoughts or
No,
yeah.
I
Go ahead.
wish that I had heard more from you. I'm so sorry. I love the languages of Tolkien, and I have so much to learn. Um, and I
Yeah.
really could talk about this for hours, and I
Yeah.
did not allot time properly today, so. But
No, it's all
what
right.
about what
Yeah.
about you? Any
Well,
ending
I
thoughts
mean,
on the languages of Tolkien?
yeah. I mean, as I was saying, I do like languages a lot. So the fact that like he was able to create languages like that's like, hey, here is how you pronounce things, and like people are like learn his language and like talk to people and like those. I think that people get
Yeah,
together and whatever like large groups and just talk Elvish. So I think
yeah,
that that's really cool. Because like again, like imagine you've put a lot into yours and how like you've considered like coming up with the orchestra and all, but it's like one of those things where it's like it's really kind of impressive that he just like created the whole thing. This is like a
oh
complete
yeah,
language,
oh yeah.
and it's just like crazy. And
With
I mean,
different evolutionary stages, which I think is what makes it really feel lived in.
yeah,
And
and
there's
then like
poetry to go
yeah,
with it.
right, yeah, and then yeah, like you're saying, like he probably, I mean, I don't really, I guess he does write some Elvish poetry in the books,
He
right?
does actually. He writes quite a few poems in the books proper, and then there's a lot of Elvish poetry that he actually composed. Either he composed it in English and then he translated it, or the other way around. It's possible he did the other way around. Um, which is the thing that really inspired me to be like, I think I can do this. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So I mean, then he's got like the other ones too, like Entish, and like we were saying, Dwarvish, and like the Valar even have their own language, I
Yeah.
guess, and things like that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like he
There's
even
so
comes up with
much.
like Manish, like this is what like Westerness, or Westernese, I guess Western, okay, whatever, like the men's language, right?
Yeah. Next time we gotta dig into Appendix E and Appendix F, because those are the language minds. He talks about like the difference between Gondorian and Rohirrim the languages, and just very cool. It's all really
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, we can just make this a part one and then bring it roundabout for another
Oh,
one, huh?
hey, I have an extremely flexible schedule, and I would love that. I would love to talk about Tolkien some more.
Yeah, yeah. We can dig into those last two appendices or those last appendices there.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
go through that
We
stuff.
can
That would
get
be
you
cool.
reading some
Yeah,
you reading some excerpts too.
Yeah. That'd be great. Yeah.
All
Yeah. Well, thanks,
right. Well,
Anthony.
I appreciate you,
Yeah.
Philip. I'll see you soon.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you for our next episode next week.
Yeah, thanks everyone. You're awesome.